Hi, this is Marcel of Marcel on Tech, and today we're talking about a tablet device. This is one of the best budget devices that you can get from Samsung. It is a great brand and obviously one of the best built devices that you can get hold of. But is it worth the money, and should you get this right now in 2023? Let's take a look. Okay, let's talk about the Samsung Tab A8. This is a budget device that has a lot of things going for it, but also some fundamental weaknesses. So let's talk about the build quality very, very quickly. We've got this really nice bar across the top here that just sort of sets apart this metal feeling on the reverse, and you've obviously got a camera with a small camera bump there as well. The camera is an 8 megapixel on this side, and we've got a forward-facing in the middle here camera, which is a 5 megapixel camera there as well. And this camera is probably not something that's going to change your life, but nonetheless, that's where it is. We've got pretty slim bezels here that you can see. Now, turning on the screen, we can see here that it's almost exactly the same. The edges are a little bit narrower than the top side, the top and the bottom here, which is quite nice. It does mean that you get a couple of accidental screen touches, but otherwise it's not too bad. Now, the build quality does feel very, very good. We've got some speaker grills on this side. We've got USB Type-C. We also get a headphone jack, which of course is very rare nowadays, but more common in tablets, of course. And then we've got more speaker grills here as well. So the sound quality coming out of this thing is pretty good, and we'll get to that very, very soon. Then we're going to talk about how compact it is. So now it is pretty light in the hand. It's not necessarily something that you would want to hold for too long in one hand, particularly when it's like this. When it's in more of an upright aspect ratio, then it's more straightforward to hold on to. But it's not necessarily the lightest device, but because it's nice and slim and comfortable in the hand, I really do like the rounded edges here. Even the edges on here aren't too sharp either, so it really is quite comfortable to hold, but I always put these in a case anyway. So I did buy an aftermarket case that I fit on there. I'll put the links in the description below. But this is a comfortable, good-looking, well-built device. Most importantly, a well-built device. It's a solid device. And of course, on the top here, we've got the power button and the volume rocker as well, along with another microphone as well. So let's talk about the pros of this device. This device has a good battery life. Okay, now I managed to get a pretty solid 8 hours of screen on time with this device. I recently took it on holiday with me, and I was able to watch various things online and download and so on. I did buy the bigger version, which is the 128 gigabyte. So this has 4 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of memory, which is pretty good. And I would say it would want to be, if you're going to go for this device, that's the size that you're going to want to go for to make it really worth your while. It is expandable. No, it's not. It does have the One UI interface, which is very, very good. There, we're now supporting the latest update. Actually took us all the way up to One UI 5.1. So it's a good system update. We've got a security patch for April as well. So we're going to be covered there, and we're definitely going to have security updates going forward. Android 13 we're running on here. So we're definitely up to scratch in relation to the software. The audio quality is pretty good. We got audio. We're gonna fly. So as you can hear, there's not an awful lot in the terms of bass there, but the volume definitely goes high enough. And obviously, if you're watching anything, any videos, or obviously streaming anything on the media consumption side, then you're going to have no problem with that whatsoever. Obviously, I was on a plane very recently, and I couldn't obviously use the speakers to listen, but I paired it up with my Samsung Buds Pro 2, and that worked really, really well, and was brilliant for noise cancelling as well. So the audio quality from this, if you're in an appropriate environment, is very adequate and it's going to work really, really well. Obviously, you're running with Android and Samsung, so you're going to have various things on here as well in terms of apps, and even gaming is actually acceptable. So it's a pretty good setup here, to be honest, in relation.
So I sped up this loading page for Need for Speed to demonstrate that it does need work.
So we can see there that the load up time is not terribly fast. I just booted into Need for Speed and it wasn't a very, very quick process. So one of the factors or the cons of this device are that it's got a very straightforward SoC. So the system on chip is not going to be the most powerful. It's going to be very, very useful for very basic fundamental tasks such as media streaming, music playing, video watching or photos, etc. But any demanding games are going to have a lower resolution and refresh rate. Unfortunately, one of the biggest downsides to this device is actually the screen. Now, the screen is one of the biggest things that let this device down, because aside from the cameras, which of course you're never going to use a tablet for the quality camera, front or back, I will include some images that I did take with the front and the rear camera, and some video footage as well. But the screen itself is a low resolution TFT screen, which is really unfortunate and does get quite washed out. Now, I've always been using iPads for the last, probably the last 6 years, to be honest. And whenever I compare this screen to an iPad screen, it really just does seem unfair. Even for a newer device, this one just gets really washed out. The colors are good, but it's just too washed out to be comparable to anything other than at this sort of lower budget range for the device. So really the letdowns of this device are going to be the screen itself isn't something you're going to want to use for professional use or for high-end gaming in any way. This is just going to be perhaps somewhat a tablet for a child who was looking for a basic device that's not going to cost too much. My recommendation would be make sure that you go for something that is in a good price range. This retails normally for around 320 euros, but I managed to get hold of this device for much cheaper. I managed to get hold of it for 240 euros, which is very good. So I would highly recommend that. So it's a great, reliable, well-built device running 5.1 UI, but the screen is a little bit of a letdown. If you're one of those people who's used to very high quality screens, then you're going to be a little bit disappointed with the TFT screen here that's a little bit washed out. But in terms of functionality, it's going to do everything you want it to do, other than high-end gaming and or high activity tasks such as media processing or development. But as always, I'm going to be biased in order to see what it's like, and I'll put a description in the comments below to let you know what that's like. But if you like this device, if you've got this device, please do put a comment. I put a link below. I'll put the best possible price I can find for the device. Follow that link, and that obviously helps out the channel as well. But otherwise, hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Keep your eyes peeled and make sure you sub for the next video. See you soon.